Call to order our budget work session for Thursday, June 1st, 2023 at 2 p.m. And our first item on the agenda is the invocation, and Commissioner Chandler will deliver the invocation.
Dear Heavenly Father, we're gathered here this afternoon for another portion of doing government business. Today we're talking about the budget. The best way that we can continue to help our citizens here in Stokes County in the most efficient and cost-effective way possible. We ask for your blessing. We ask for your guidance. And the message that we try to send is always done in your name. We ask that you bless the United States of America. And also, do not forget about public safety officials, our fire, police, and EMS. In God's names we pray, amen.
And next item is the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the next item on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion for that? Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, it's approved. Okay, the next item, I think Amber's going to start out, Amber or Lisa, one with adjustments to the FY 23-24 recommended budget that we were recently given. And I've got a few administrative kind of comments to add to that item as well after they're finished. So, our way, whoever.
We've only made 3 adjustments since the recommended budget was presented, and these are just adjustments that were made as we saw, something was left out or something's changed since it was presented. So for animal control, we removed the computer mounts for the vehicles, 1,600. We had planned to do that originally, and that was an oversight. Cooperative extension, it increased by $68,411 for their salaries and wages. Well, it's for their, we contract with them and we pay a portion of their salaries. So that line item increased $68,411 due to fringes. The sheet that was provided that we were looking at was only the salary portion. It did not include the fringes, so that was an oversight on our part, and kind of like a miscommunication between us and Cooperative Extension on what the actual number we needed to include in there for the recommended budget was to be. And then the District Resource Center for the DRC, we increased it $13,292 for the salaries and wages line item due to the vacant senior office assistant position being filled. So that's the has been filled since then. So we changed that as well. So those are the only 3 adjustments that should be different as far as numbers wise in your recommended budget. Now I'll turn it over to Finance Director Lankford to go over the information that has been provided in your green packets here, some documents.
Thank you. I believe the first one that you have is the recommended personnel and equipment items by department that was requested. The second is the debt schedule that includes everything that we still have, how many years we have left, and how much is left owing on each loan. The third item is the sales tax. And I attached behind it what comes from the state and highlighted the ad valorem for Stokes, which will match on your second page the grand total for each month. And it's a comparison between what we've collected so far this year versus last year. And there's also a graph to show general fund sales tax and the school sales tax. For some reason, it's always 2 months behind, so March is the last payment that I got in May. It's kind of taking a dive now in sales tax.
That's an understatement.
The next sheet is your ad valorem estimated value of taxes with the new percentage, 98.13% collection rate. And at the very bottom, the tax department assisted me. The total estimated 1 cent tax increase will generate around $482,000. And then behind that, for the general fund, we also have one for the fire tax history with a graph. And the cent, 8 cents, that it's been for a while. The next graph is, went through each of our audits, and the first column, it shows fund balance appropriation that we use to balance the budget, and then what was appropriated back to fund balance or taken away after the audit. The next is the fund balance percentage per the audit for each year, and of course, it is still an estimate for 22-23. And then your next sheet is Michelle in finance called several different counties, asked the population their actual fund balance, and if they had a policy for fund balance percentages, that they also shared that with us to kind of give you a idea of maybe some counties that are close to us. I know Beaufort, it's a little bit different because it's tourism on the coast, but tried to go more, it was towards the population. Yeah. The next sheet is for the school, and it shows different years of budget and what they asked for in current expense with a graph. And then the second half of the sheet is what was budgeted for capital outlay with a graph.
That's local dollars, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we got a 8th month PMR for how many students, if I'm correct, if I understood Ms. Moore correctly, as far as the number of students in these schools. And the last sheet that I included in your folder is a response. I asked Andrew Carter, who is our financial advisor, just a few questions as far as upcoming debt, if we needed to go out for debt, and told him about the renovation of the courthouse. Asked him a little bit about what he thought appropriate fund balance should be, and also the bond rating. And I attached his reply to me for each of those questions. And if there's anything else that you need, just let me know and I will get it together. It's a lot of information. Kind of went fast.
A lot of good information there. It'll take a little while to digest it, but homework. The is that it? What you have for now?
Yes, sir.
You got anything else in before I? I'm gonna cover like a few kind of housekeeping things. Before I do that, since we're on it, as you guys notice, especially the three incumbent commissioners from before, the format for the budget is different this year. We went from Julia's spreadsheet to using the GEM system, which I think we all had a consensus we wanted to try to do that. And so they went and used the GEM system. We're now going to replace the GEM system with a new software package next year that's already paid for by ARPA funds. So there wasn't any, I don't think there was any desire to spend any money on GEMS doing anything with it for this just one cycle. So we've got like a 1-year format here, and then we're going to be moving to a more sophisticated or more friendly kind of a program, software program. So I think probably my first point is, if given the format that we're using this year, if you want any additional stuff besides what was in the green folder here, and particularly maybe in the area of revenues, where the revenues are not attached to the individual departments. But I can deal with the revenues like they are, because you can kind of tell that they're about the same as last year. They're just up a slight bit in their conservative estimate, because they haven't changed but very little over last year. So, but if anybody wants some additional information on the revenues for departments, or maybe federal versus local dollars or something on the revenue breakdown, or anything else that you didn't get out of this particular format, maybe before we leave today, we can tell Lisa and Amber to get that for us by Monday when we have our next meeting. I mean, the things that are obviously not there are things like, I think in our past several years, we've had Julia put the % increase per department. I mean, you can just look at them and pretty well estimate that in your head almost, but we had that on there. We had the number of personnel for each department on the individual department sheets, and that's not there. But personnel summaries that Amber did in the message and stuff pretty well tell you what you need to know about personnel, I think. But if somebody has a particular personnel thing they want to get for a department or something, and then there was one, what was the other thing on there? We had, Julia just put some general notes on those sheets too, using that format, which you couldn't really do without changing GEM. So anyway, so my point is, if there's anything else you need besides what they've given us, let's try to tell them today so they can get it to us by Monday. One thing in particular is, I'd asked for, and some of you may have too, for a lot of comparison data on on us with the school system versus other school systems, or like counties and so forth, or other counties, period. And they are working, they gave us a little bit of stuff today, but they're working on having that done by Monday, I think, already. For the information similar to what we've had before, that of dollars per student and all the other information. They're working with Lynette to get that finished up for us by Monday. Anyway, so that's one thing. Before we leave, if you would let them know, or now if you already know something you want them to do. The second thing is, I think given that we're switching to this new software system, after this budget is over, we need to meet with whoever the right folks are, and give guidance to our folks on what we want the budget format to look like in the future. Because when we go in this new software package, we can design it to look similar to what we used to get, or I guess first of all we would need to know what it offers to us, and then us kind of come up with a format for what we want it to look like next year using the next iteration of software, which I think we'll be on schedule to have in. Aren't we? Isn't that the plan?
Yeah, we should. And I think the format too depends on which software we actually select, because we placed out that RFP, and so we've received some responses back to that. So we haven't officially selected the.
Glenn's working on that
Yes,
with you too,
yes, he
right?
is. So we'll be doing that very soon. So I think the format and what options we have will depend on which one we select as well, because we won't know what the budget portion of it looks like until I guess we decide which one we
Okay.
select. So.
As soon as we're able to do that, if you just bring it to the board and let us then start telling you what we're looking for, so what might be available. One other housekeeping thing, what I thought I'd do today is just we'll just rotate for up to 10-minute segments for commissioner, and then just keep rotating until everybody said everything they want to say today. And but kind of try to cut it around 10 minutes so we kind of have everybody flowing. And is that okay with everybody doing it that way? Okay. Let me see what else. I think that's all I needed to. That's all I needed to tell you guys. Does anybody have any additional information that you want to tell them right now that you want to get in addition to what was provided today? You good? Okay. Let me go digest all that and everything. Okay. Anything else we need to talk about under this first bullet? Amber, you got anything else, or Lisa?
Not to my knowledge. I think
Okay.
we covered it.
Okay, our next item then on the agenda is scheduling of department head budget discussions. I think we decided previously we wanted to have department heads sit in on our budget meetings, and so in order not to waste their time and have them sitting in whenever their stuff's not being discussed, I think the best approach would be to organize the budget sessions or kind of plan them today in a way that we know who's going to be up when. And that way we can have those department heads here, but then not have everybody tied up while we're discussing their department. So you have an idea, Amber, how you might want to do that? Or
Well, there's only 3 more budget work sessions that we officially have advertised and scheduled. So I mean, are you wanting to try to knock out the initial, like, I guess, discussion of each department like in one session, and then have those other 2 meetings after that to talk about it all together and what the different departments requested, or you want to like spread each department head up into 3? There's 3 meetings
my thought was to maybe do them all in the first 2 meetings.
on the first 2.
Do half of them one time, half of them the second.
Okay.
And then the third meeting,
So these aren't gonna be like as long as the other meetings that we had with them. I mean, cause I thought that was sort of a preliminary thing for budget to have those, meetings that we've already had.
Well, I think and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the thought here was that they would just maybe sit on the front row or something and just observe and listen, so they can directly observe the process and our discussion and y'all's discussion of each of the department budgets specifically. Y'all would just set, like, I guess, say you'd set half of the department head budgets you'll discuss on one budget meeting, and that way you'd go through those and discuss those budget.
So they're here if we have questions.
Exactly.
Exactly.
They won't be a part of the discussion unless y'all have direct questions or need input from them on something. It's more of just to let them be involved, because normally in previous years we've just kind of jumped around to different things, and they'd have to attend all of them to have
We'll have to
input.
be careful though if we open the door.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't thinking of them making any presentations
Okay.
unless we had a question.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Is that good for
Unless y'all
y'all?
specifically have questions or they need to justify something
And
more.
there's probably a lot of the departments that I don't have a lot of questions for a lot of departments. My thing would just be if it's something that I think is vital to the community and they want it, I would just want statistics to show why they.
I think probably as the discussion evolves, you may have questions for them then that you don't even have now, though, as we get into to weighing one thing against the other and all that. So
You just want me to take the departments and break them in half and for the next two budget work sessions. Just,
Yeah, I mean, is everybody good with that? The other thing, I'll make a note, which I'm gonna go through my notes at my appropriate time here, but, we've got budget sessions till the 20th. And then that gives us 10 more days to approve the budget. So if we're not, I don't know how this is all going to proceed, but if we're not finished on the 20th, we probably need to be prepared for a bunch of recess meetings, however many it takes to finish it, if we're not ready, if we're not finished on the 20th. So I'm just going to give you guys a heads up, maybe to kind of keep your schedules a little bit open during that last 10 days. So.
Yeah, that's easy for you to say.
Well, maybe we get done by the 20th, hopefully. Maybe, you know, it'll be interesting. We'll have to see how it goes.
Yep.
I'm not interested in dragging it out
No, me
any
either.
further than it needs to be.
Just get it over with.
Okay. So y'all good then with the two, splitting them up in the next two?
Yeah.
Okay.
okay. Do you have any sort of recommendation? I guess are you wanting to talk about public safety all at one meeting kind of thing?
I would like that.
And
Yeah, I
do-
think that's a good idea.
Okay. And then I can just do that after the meeting today and let you all know.
Yeah, and plus public safety plus some more if we have time
Well, yeah,
for it.
yeah, but I just mean like group the ones I guess
Yeah,
together
kind
that
of
makes
group,
sense.
group like ones together.
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
All right, so then our next agenda item is budget discussion amongst the group that's in the room here. I would note that we don't have any visitors here today to observe this budget session. I hope maybe we will have for future ones. But on the other hand, we're live on social media, so hopefully there's some folks that are watching there as well. Okay, under budget discussion, thought I'd start with the three previous incumbent commissioners, maybe go first today since we've done this a few times before. And then have our two new folks join in. And
You want me to go first, aren't you?
I'll go first, John. Yeah, you can go first.
Well, you may already be thinking some of the same things I'm thinking. I've just got about a page here, so I don't have 10 minutes worth, but this.
I'll give you some of my 10.
Well, no, I don't need it.
Okay, you go first then.
This is just some of the things that I'm thinking of looking at this. I have concerns about the fund balance, first of all, being at 14%, especially when this guy from Doug Carter says it should be between 30 and 35, which we've never had that high of a fund balance that I can remember, but he says for a county like yours, we would recommend 30 to 35% unassigned or available fund balance.
What does he mean there, a county like ours?
The size of ours, I
Is that
guess.
what it's all size?
yeah. I would assume so. Yes. Population.
So,
Let's just kind of do like Keith just did. Let's do informal discussion
Okay,
as we
yeah.
go, not be too formal so we don't waste time.
Okay.
I didn't mean that.
no, that's fine. That's
Just jump in.
fine. That's a good question. And just looking at the budget, I think that 6 million is way too much of the fund balance to allocate. I think it's taking it down way too far. So I don't know where we can make cuts, but I think that's what we need to look for is places to cut. I think we have to just reduce expenditures in this, but look for ways moving forward to increase revenue, which is what we talked about with the 1/4-cent sales tax and occupancy tax. That ain't gonna help us with this budget. I think moving forward too, one thing we're gonna have to consider if we don't have a tax increase is can we continue to pay 100% for all employees for the health, dental, and vision? And, you know, I've got some questions about some of the things that maybe could be cut, but I don't think I'm ready to about that, yet. I'm not sure, like last year's recommended budget was 49,117,782, but the final approved budget was 54,341. I'm not sure where that 5 million increase came, what did we put in here there that was 5 million more in the end?
I watched that from home and wondered the same thing.
Yeah, I'm like.
Did I miss an episode?
Because, yeah, that doesn't
That's a
seem-
lot of money.
Yeah, 5 million difference from recommended to the final approved is, I'm not sure where what happened there.
Maybe where we had to do the full price of some of these projects that we were funding, even though we don't have to pay for them all at once. I don't know if that's true or
I
not.
don't know.
If you have a project, you have to put the full amount in that first budget, so.
I got an idea.
You said the requested versus the recommended versus the final approved, you said? Okay.
I have a question about that. And you might have answered this, Lisa. It might be too early to know, but I know last year at this time when we talked about fund balance, we talked about that there was about 1.7 million that we thought wouldn't be used that we would get back, and I don't think it's on that sheet that you gave us. But I'm
For
just wondering,
22, 23, you're talking about
22,
the year that we're
23.
in,
not the year we're in now, last year.
21, 22.
Yeah, let me look back
Maybe
at
on
that
that
sheet.
sheet,
But what my question is do you think there was any chance that would happen this year? That maybe there would be money that wouldn't be used that would go back in?
I will work on that for you
Okay.
before the next
All right.
meeting.
Yep, that was a question I had.
I'm afraid not, but
Yeah, I've got to do that quarterly. Well, I've got to do the big budget amendment for one of the commissioners'
Where is that
meetings in
sheet?
June.
She just went over it. Hold on.
yeah, we had a good bid in 2022 that came back.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, that we, in 2022, we got back to 2.7, so we really only used 500,000 in fund balance in the 21-22 budget cycle. That's pretty good. So then the one we're in right now is the 22-23, and that's the
The
question.
one that you want me, okay.
But we don't know yet.
Right.
So that's what you can. So I wrote down in my budget notes last year, or it was in Shannon's budget message that she thought we would be able to get back 1.7, and it looks like we ended up getting back 2.7 of fund balance. So that's good.
Nice numbers.
Yeah. So I mean that could help us if there's anything that could come back to us this year. That's one thing I'd like to know, but that's really all I've got right now. You come back to me.
Okay. On this chart, I want to make sure I understand it. The chart, this chart here, where the lines are down in the negative, the red lines, that means we spent that money, right?
Right.
Then if it's, the other ones are where we put it back in and didn't spend it. And this budget, this budget, this audit we're getting is for which year?
122.
22.
122, yeah. So we'll just have to make our own estimate about how much we put back in 2022 or 23.
23.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something she can give us a better estimate by the next meeting.
How close are they?
Close this year.
On the audit, is it done?
For next one.
There's a couple of, I think, footnotes. We were waiting for one schedule from the tax department, which he got me today. I can send to him. And I believe they're going to try to schedule to come on the 12th to present the budget, the first meeting in June.
Audit, you mean?
The audit.
The audit, yeah.
Okay, great. Be good to see them. Is that, you good for that, round?
Yeah, that's good.
Or
Okay.
you wanna go next, you want me to?
Doesn't matter, I can go.
Go ahead then, I'll do it. I'll follow you.
If you wanna go, I can always wait.
I didn't write your name down, Ronnie, go ahead.
Well, one of the first questions I had, I guess, was just answered, is, when will we get the presentation of the audit? Waiting and waiting, and now I hear it's the 20th, is that correct?
12. The
12.
first
First
meeting.
meeting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Lord. Because I've been waiting on that for quite a while. And I know there were some things that were occurring that did not get to them, or they did not get their job done, ever will happen.
While you're on that, who is at fault on this dragging out? Let's just discuss that now.
I would say.
The only reason I say this is 7 years for me, and this is the latest it's ever come out.
Is it the people doing the audit?
Well, it was turnover in key personnel is one of the findings that she told me.
On their end?
Here.
On this end, okay.
Yes. And I think with a lot of the GASB that's come on board, it takes a little bit longer. She asked for something on the 25th of May, if I'm correct, that she was still asking for new stuff. It was the first time I got it.
So you're not blaming it on COVID?
Not blaming it on COVID, but you know, there's a learning curve. I'm
Well, the
behind.
other boards I'm on, the commissioners are all talking about theirs being late too because
Yeah, I'm
there
hearing that
ain't-
across the board.
There ain't enough
Yeah.
auditors to do, and they're not interested in government audits anymore.
No.
So it's
Well, they've
becoming-
had to postpone ours because they're working on other counties as well. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a, so I'll take
Interesting,
the
okay.
hit for here.
Hey, go ahead, Ronnie.
Thank you. I'll quickly just go over a few things. As I looked over the what we had to take out of fund balance, noticed that it started at year 17, 18 in the county manager's notebook, which was on the second page, or one page, and it says a pivotal point. 17, 18, I know very well because I was the chairman that year, and we had to bring out $1,293,800. Is that correct, Amber? Is that what you see on your paper?
yes, sir.
And then as we went through, it increased 2 or 3 years. And then, of course, we had the federal government stepping in with the American Rescue Plan amounts of money that we got. But then this year, 17, 18, it says a large sum of the county's general fund had been needed in order to balance budget. It was $1,293,817.18. If you look on the page across from it, it says after cuts were made, we were left with $6.36 million in funding needed to balance the budget. That is the difference of $5,113,280 from the 17-18 fiscal year, what we needed to take out of the fund balance to this year. Because when you subtract the 6.36 million, you subtract 1,293,800, that leaves you with $5,113,280. That's quite a bit of difference, and that worries me. Because Sonia brought up Shannon saying that we might get back 1.7, and we got back 2.7. we don't ever know that number, that magical number at this point. And we all five sit here when we first started the budget, and we all said we didn't want a tax increase. Did we not? No, we did.
Last resort.
Yeah. And I am going to stick to that on my end, no tax increase. That's just me. I'm just giving my opinion. So we're looking at what, and I read over some of the amounts of money. Some were recurring, some were just positions. And I just am at the point that we're going to have to look back through this with a fine-tooth comb, because there are some things that can be taken out. And it's not going to make some people happy. And of course, all four of y'all, I know, have your own opinions, so please, I'm not addressing y'all in any way. I'm just addressing my own opinion that 6.36 million in funding needed to balance the budget. So that's a huge amount. From when I was chairman in 17-18, it was 1,293,800. So and I don't know what the school system's budget is yet. I know it's ready.
Read it.
I haven't looked at it. but-
I've talked to some people, so I know it's ready.
Oh, no, we have it. It's in our budget.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, one good thing that we have done, and I talked to Jared Jones and some of the people, is we have increased that amount. I think Commissioner Morris, Chairman Morris, can verify this. Because when I retired and ran and got on the board, we have increased every year the amount on current expense. They got an increase every year from the board, from us. And so I think we've taken good care of the school system. The school system is very important, no doubt about it. But there are many other things that are very important too. Law enforcement, EMS, social services. I mean, there's a lot of things that have really been wiped out, and they needed. Unfortunately, we're in a situation where they had to be. And I know if I recalled Amber's presentation, there were a few words that I had ingrained in my mind that she said at the end of every request. In a basic way, we don't have enough money. It wasn't her exact terminology, but that's what you were saying, correct, Amber?
Yes.
We just don't have enough money. And we are in this in my 7th year, this is the toughest budget I've gone through. And when I say tough, I mean, I looked over I went back through. I know we had all the department heads come in earlier, as Sonia mentioned, and they talked about what they needed. And I thought, well, most of them were needs and not wants. However, you hit a year every now and then where it just can't happen. And I don't see it happening this year. And it's not anything against any of the departments. But I think I know we talked about bringing half of the group in on one meeting and the other half on the other meeting. I don't know, to present a balanced budget, which is our duty. I don't know if we've got enough meetings scheduled, and I hate to say it that way. I looked at it because my birthday is June the 21st, and I saw we had a meeting on June 20th, and I said, gee, I would have had a way to get out of going out for my birthday. But we didn't have one scheduled after the 20th unless we need it. And I've got a feeling that we are going to need it, especially, I'm glad the audit group's coming in on the 12th. Is that right, Lisa?
That's correct.
And as bad as it looks, it is bad. And there are some things that are in here that have been recommended. The few items, capital, non-capital equipment, personnel, etc. We may have to go back and even cut it some more. And I'm gonna stop right there, Mr. Chairman. I would like, you'll go back around.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you go ahead.
Yeah, as many times as y'all want to. Okay, I would agree with Commissioner Mendenhall's comments that we might need more meetings. That's my gut feel as well. So, as alluding to my previous statement. So, I think this is probably going to be the most difficult budget I've done, with exception, we had one where we abolished 13 positions, I think. But I don't remember when that was, a long time ago when I was in her seat. But other than that one, this one I think is lined up to be a real challenge. I would point out the chart, one of the charts they handed out, this one here across the top of the page, 9 years with no tax increase. If you want to start looking for where the problems are coming from. This cycle kind of occurs over and over here. I went through this cycle during a certain number of years when I was county manager. And I gave like 3 presentations out 3 years in a row with a little thing with a train in a tunnel saying, if you don't raise taxes this year, you definitely got to do it when you get to this year. And I said the next year, if you don't do it this year, you definitely got to do it next year. Then I got to the next year, and guess what they did? They didn't do it. So just to give you an idea that this is a cyclical thing that goes on here with all expenses going up and the revenue staying the same. And anybody knows how to make that work, I'd really need an algorithm or something. But which leads me to my next point. I think we need to, I think, like Amber said, at kind of a pivotal point. We really don't need to do this budget in a vacuum. I think at a minimum, we need to be thinking of a 2-year budget here as we go through this, because depending how much or how little we do is going to make next year a bigger challenge or a worse or easier challenge or whatever. But we're in this period where there's so much change going on that I think every key decision we make, we need to put it through a filter of how's it going to impact next year's budget. And because we're coming off of the ARPA money, we're back to reality budget. We're never going to get another ARPA dump on us, I would bet, for many, many years to come. That was like unbelievable that happened, I thought. And it helped us, and it helped us with our internet, and it helped us with some other areas too. But it's kind of like getting going through some withdrawals now, I think, with this budget, probably in the next one, financial withdrawals to try to figure out where we're at. I got a bunch of bullets here that are kind of, they're not really super coordinated, they're kind of disjointed, jump around a little bit, but I'll just start going through them. From kind of taking a macro look at the budget. I think we have very well defined what the requirements and needs are for our operational expenses and revenues, and we have also very well defined what our capital needs are with the assessment that Perry did, both of our buildings and with the county school buildings. So in the meetings, the department head meetings that were mentioned earlier that we had a couple hours with each department, I think we've done a really good job of baselining where we're at and what our needs are. And of course, the challenge is going to be how we address those needs and how we, I would think, come up with some kind of a phased approach to addressing them. Certainly can't do them all at once, that's for sure. We have, one of the things I was going to ask you guys to consider, I don't think I've ever said this before in either role I've been in, manager or elected officials, but I think maybe we should maybe look at a policy of passing, just automatically almost passing unfunded mandates straight to the taxpayer. I mean, I don't know any other way to fund this stuff that you get forced to do and you have no option but to do it. And I'm thinking maybe we just directly translate that to how many pennies, and unless it's something we can fight, and start taking an approach of at least being able to pay for unfunded mandates when they come and not getting behind on them. So that's one of the items that I was thinking we could discuss and philosophize on during these budget meetings. I'll give you a perfect example. We got a $6 or $7 million loan coming from the courthouse. That's an unfunded mandate that we were given. No choice. I asked specifically in a meeting if we had any option. The answer is no, we don't. So one of the things I wanted to get you guys to go figure out is what the payment's going to be on that amount of money when we borrow it. And I guess assume 40 years probably, or 30 or 40 year loan with USDA, I guess is who we'll get it from. But and then we just translate that payment to a tax increase. And we also would need to know when that payment starts. It may not start until next year's budget, but by the time we get through the loan process and have to make a payment. But that's just an example. I mean, we get lots of other unfunded mandates that it costs us money. I agree with earlier comments about the quarter-cent sales tax. We've tried a couple times with that, and now we've got an occupancy tax I think is going to go through. Looking for ways to relieve the property tax burden, and if we can't get the voters to support things like this sales tax, where people from outside the county help to fund us instead of our property owners having to do it, and that just makes it that much more difficult not to.
What bothers me there, we go to Winston and fund theirs.
I know. Yeah, they all got it. And so I think we just got to really, within the limits that we're allowed to participate in that, we've got to really try to get the message out that that's one of the ways we can relieve some of the tax burden on property tax on the people that own property in the county, is by doing that. Then occupancy tax will do the same thing. All of these will help us a little bit next year. They're not going to help us this year, so which is kind of what makes this year much more challenging. On the fund balance, I have the same concerns that you guys do. I think when the auditors are here, we need to make sure we understand exactly what the definition of the fund balance. The fund balance is made up of 3 or 4 components that are restricted, unrestricted, and 2 or 3 other names they call them. Then you got this part that you can actually, discretionary, that you can spend. I think we need to make sure we have a clear definition of exactly which one of those percentages we need to be working toward to do loans and so forth. We ain't gonna get anything to 35% anytime soon, unless you guys have a better
You would
idea
have
than
to
me.
show me where there's a lot of counties and municipalities that got 35% unrestricted funds.
We had up in the high 20s here till recently.
That's not in the 30s.
I know. I think they've always recommended, every time I've ever asked for what it should be here, it's been in the, anywhere from the mid-20s to 30, low 30s. And where we've always been is somewhere around the mid-20s or 20, right at 20 for the past several, I don't know how many cycles or whatever. And then we've let it slip a little below 20, I think, here lately. So I'm not so sure that, I appreciate the question that Andrew answered for you guys on that email about needing 35% for a loan. I don't necessarily think that's and maybe I'm wrong on this, we need to ask somebody, but I think as long as you tell the LGC you'll raise taxes to pay for whatever it is you want to do, I think that's what they look at more than they do exactly what your fund balance is. I know it plays into the discussion, but I think you may have to guarantee them a tax increase to get certain loans and stuff, along with whatever the floor fund balance would be or whatever. So, but we definitely got to work on that, and keep it. I don't know where we're going to keep it on this budget. One of the questions I have is a lot further down my list, I think, but I don't know if you already addressed this, Amber, or not, or Lisa, but with this, if we adopted your recommended budget, what would our fund balance be by doing that? Did y'all figure that out already?
We haven't come up with a concrete number because we didn't know, we haven't done the audit for fiscal year
Yeah,
22,
that's
23
what-
yet, so we don't know which one to even operate off of,
Okay.
But we can work on an estimate.
If you could just kind
if
of
you wanna see if we can.
do an estimate that we won't hold you to it, but I'm just kind of curious because I have an idea. It's like it is lower than what it is right now, like it's around 10 probably or something. 10 or 11 probably. So anyway, if y'all could come up with that, that'd be handy to help us get through this wicket we've got to get through. Have I been 10 minutes already? Close? Okay, I'm quitting in right there until my turn comes back.
You notice Brad was only one time.
Close. Okay, so, okay, good. So I'm ready for my next round whenever. Okay, you want to
Go
go?
ahead, Keith.
Keith, you're going to go next.
I don't know where to start. I'll start with crazy comment. I look forward to working on this budget. We didn't create the problem, we're going to be the solution. And we need to long-term plan so our grandkids 10 years from now that's sitting in these positions are not dealing with what we're having to deal with because it wasn't handled correctly, in my opinion. And y'all got my phone number if you want to call me. But I think there's some opportunities. One thing we got to look at, and I'll plug Sheriff Lemons. We got to get him jailers so that jail is full, and the money is coming in. So I think that's a must. In all my years in the corporate world, there's always fat in the budget. So we got to go back to the heads and say, hey, we're in a pinch. Get your knife out and start with it.
On your jail comment, are you talking about approving those 4 positions?
He
Or the
he
4
can't,
detention
he can't,
officers?
he's
Detention
limited.
officers.
4 detention officers.
I don't think it was 4, was it?
Yeah, it was 4.
It was
But he's limited. You can't fill that jail with not having the proper number of jailers, right? Am I?
Yeah, there's so many per population.
Yeah.
You didn't recommend those four, did you, the detention officer? You did? Okay.
No.
I had a note I'll get to later on that, so go ahead.
But I do feel like if we were anywhere else but North Carolina, building materials would come down and we could save money on the courthouse. But construction in North Carolina is absolutely insane still. I sold $1 million worth this week. I mean, it's everything under the sun. But we're also seeing some projects getting delayed or pushed out or not getting funded. So I think we've got a lot of opportunities. Is it going to be easy? No. But we'll get there. And I want to thank Amber and Lisa and Ty. I'm just joking. But we'll get through it. All right, Brad, you're up.
Last but not least,
Yes. First of all, I do have concern about taking that much money out, $6 million out to balance the budget, and then where it would leave the fund balance. I think that, after we get done with this budget cycle, I think it should be a matter of practice for this board to, every January, we need to set our goals and objectives and have strategic planning. I don't know of any government entity that does not do that. And I'm sure even the corporate world probably does it.
That's true.
I don't, and I'm really trying to, I've only been on the board since December 4th. And then, we really didn't do a lot, just get sworn in. So then at the beginning of the year, and we're into June, and when we listened to the department heads come in front of us, I think we were all, it was very awakening how far behind the times that our government is. What I'm afraid is that, and there's no, there's no one right answer, but the longer that we continue to just trot along, this place will probably never come up to speed in terms of an effective government. We've got good employees here, but we've got horrible business practice. We got horrible technology. When you look at trying to save money, we could cut back on staffing if we had the proper technology. Everybody has got to manually do everything. This is not the 1970s.
Can I insert something there?
Sure.
We've had 2 ladies retire. And the question this week, I says, who's replacing them? And they said a new software package we got. It's going to do their job. It's that simple. And I'm not talking about replacing people, but if we got people retiring every month, it seems like, since I've been here. Should we check in the software and see if that works, like you're saying, Brad?
It goes back to the, what came first, the chicken or the egg. So, like what Commissioner Cox talked about in terms of the, we need to look at maybe because our employees, they don't pay anything for their employee coverage, only do they pay into the family coverage. And I agree with that. We need to look at that. But as I've spent so much time so much time going through and reading the budgets and going through the personnel book right here. And I mentioned it to Rick the other day, that, my wife made a comment to me that, if you're gonna have to be this thorough and do all this, why'd you retire? I mean, I could have made, I made a lot more money doing that, but it's to the point that every organization has to have a foundation that provides the logistics and provides the vessel to make for an effective organization. You look at government, so you look at the government, and the government does some of the workforce when they say, hey, somebody's in charge of finances in the budget. And they name who can be, what a government has to have. And when they do that, again, that's a vessel to make sure that there's some form of accountability, some form of being proactive in accounting for the money and getting the money to the right programs. When you look at our human resources, they touch every single area of our county government in numerous ways. When you look at IT touches. There shouldn't be any one part of our government here that does not use a computer or need technology. So they touch every single part of this county. Let's just look at human resources real quick. We have no professional development plan here, none. Now, we got some retirements coming up. They're going to be department head retirements. And guess what? And I've only been on since December 4th. But what's going to happen is the department heads are going to retire. They're going to retire. We all are going to be scrambling around here trying to find, let's get a contract. Let's try to work out, who's going to take over for what amount of pay. Oh, well, maybe do we keep the department head back a little bit, pay them some money to do it? It's a vicious cycle. And it's antiquated doing that. But if you don't have professional development and you don't have current personnel policies, everything should not have to come to the board in terms of policy decisions when it comes to a organization that should be growing. Organizations grow. And the only way you grow is to make sure that you have human capital. And you can do it either way. You can grow your human capital in-house, which is preferable, or you can just bring everybody in from the outside and do it. So organizations do it different ways. But if we don't fund, if we don't put money into things, we're never going to change. We're never. And yeah, we can all sit around and say, well, you know what? We didn't take no money out of the fund balance, and we'll limp along to the next year. And just like Commissioner Morse said, that, hey, you witnessed that firsthand. So what I'm trying to say is this, in a nutshell. In terms of recommendations, and of course, our human resource department, they can't do anything proactive. Everything is reactive with them because they have two people. When we look at recruiting and retention, I mean, what is best? Is it is the model that we should go with that says, hey, look, we need to advertise and tout that that our employees, you pay nothing for insurance. And it's also for vision too, right? We don't charge them anything for vision, do we? It's free. I mean, and here's another thing. The trend here in North Carolina is, I don't know hardly any organization except Stokes that, you know, when the retirees go into the retiree pool, that they still don't pay anything. Your retiree pool, I mean, and I'm retired from Fayetteville, I pay into it. I mean, it's good insurance, and I'm more than happy to pay what I pay into it. But you got to remember, that's a different pool. It's a higher risk. The older you get, you have issues sometimes, and a lot of the issues that you have is very costly. So you have a retiree pool that doesn't pay into anything. We have our current employees that do not pay into anything. But then why do we have a retention problem? And why do we have a recruiting problem? What is our goal here? I don't, and I'll tell you why it's so confusing is because as I stop and talk to people and ask questions, they don't know either. And they've been here a lot longer than I've been here on the board, or working for Stokes County. We don't have a brand. We don't market. I mean, what? I guess my question is, if we just want to stay the same, and hey, I mean, we make it by somehow or other, we can get certain employees, and we just make it go. And if they get raises, they get raises. If they don't, they don't. Public safety, someone shows up, they show up. I mean, what are the expectations? What are the expectations of the services that we provide our citizens? I mean, for goodness sakes, our volunteer fire departments, we have trouble getting volunteers during the day to respond to fires. I mean, and it's been that way. And then you try to get solutions. Then you get one faction over here that goes ballistic, and they don't like, that someone's trying to solve something. Then they have a plan. So we'll see what that plan is. But the bottom line is, we got to do something, and it's got to start somewhere. It's got to start somewhere. And but we have got to get. We've got to. Our organization has to start building the foundation. And HR is one place, and IT is another, and then we look at expectations, and we got to have public safety. If people call 911, we got to have people answer the phone. We got to have them to get people where they need to be. My 10 minutes is up.
Right on 10 minutes. All righty, are we ready for round two, the commissioner comments?
Well, sure. I will say that some things that Brad's talking about is true. That there's a lot of things that we do need to work on and move forward and be more proactive with, for sure. However, I will say that Darlene, just till a few years ago, did all those jobs. One person. So at least we've got two people in HR now.
Will she come back to full time?
She was clerk and did all those. So we've got three people doing what one person used to do. So we're making a little bit of progress, a little bit of headway. But, I think, we do have a lot of I do agree with the strategic planning things you're talking about and trying to plan ahead and getting this technology up to date and stuff. There's a lot of things we shouldn't be doing manually that's antiquated that we do need to bring forward. However, just up until a few years ago, we didn't even have all the online laptop with the online board packet and everything. It was all just paper. So, we're moving forward. It might be at a snail's pace, but we are moving forward a little bit. I did want to go back and say, you know, we talked about there wasn't a COLA in this budget, but like we said, with this benefit of the county paying 100% of the benefits, that's pretty huge. And maybe we don't market it enough and tout it enough, because that's not a lot of places do that that you work for. And I don't know, this LGC financing of the courthouse kind of has me concerned, because I'm wondering, are we even behind the 8 ball with that? Like, looking at this LGC schedule and everything and having to get the approval. I mean, I don't know, because I've not been here since we financed anything that we've built. But I do feel like that's something that we need to fast track to get that approved by the LGC.
I think the preliminary work's being done on it, and, right, I mean, with Perry and everybody, he updated us on it recently. So it won't be long until time to get into the loan piece of it.
Right, but I just don't
All that
know.
other stuff has to get done first, though. But I don't think it's,
Yeah.
I don't think there's dragging or anything on it.
Yeah, I
I
mean-
just don't want us to have to, you know, because they only meet so often and stuff, that we have to be waiting on them to keep moving forward on that. I feel like we're all kind of in this sort of, you know, in the same position on some of this stuff. I think we got a lot of work cut out for us to look at these cuts that need to be made and look for the fat, and see what can be taken out first. I don't know. That's all I've got right now.
Okay, Ronnie, you ready for round two?
Well, we do have to come to grips that we're behind in technology. We're behind in technology. We've got to, when I got on here in 2016, every single thing was paper. Paper. It's all paper. We didn't have laptops when I came on board. There were no laptops. When Amber sends out the agenda, now we get our laptops out and we look at it and see, read. We had no laptops then. It was working all off of paper. It all came through paper. That, we're behind on that. We just got to face reality. We are behind on that. And some people may still think that paper and pencil is, and don't get me wrong, I grew up with using paper and pencil, but now we're beyond that. We've got to continue to try our very best to make headway, catching up. Now, I'll say this. We just did a salary study, and we have 3 members that were part of that. Commissioner Cox, Commissioner Morris, and myself. Y'all all do remember the salary study, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure my mind is pretty much in the right
He worked
direction.
Raymond.
But I'm going to be honest with you. I got a call yesterday from one of our employees, and I'm not going to disclose this employee's name out of all the employees we have here, but they talked about they had looked over our thing and they said, so y'all gonna have to take $6 million out of fund balance to balance your budget. And they said, I'm gonna tell you, in our department, we're gonna have people leaving, going to, and it's the same thing I've heard, but we're gonna have people leaving, going to Yadkin County. We're gonna have people leaving, going to Davie County, because they pay so much more. And I know y'all, yeah, if anybody in here has not heard that in your short time for keeping, and I said, well, we're working through a tight budget this year. And, you know, well, you're going to start losing employees. I've heard that before. I don't want to lose employees, good employees. Good employees are hard to come by. But at the same time, you got to be realistic here. We can't just all of a sudden magically make it appear to give increases when we're sitting here talking about having to cut back in certain areas. Of course, the call was very cordial. I mean, they weren't upset. They just basically said, you know, Stokes County doesn't pay enough money for certain jobs. And maybe we don't. But you know, I bet not one person in this room knows what I made my first year of teaching in 1980.
$6,000.
Close. I made $7,950 in 1980. That was my first year of teaching at Southeastern. $7,950. Now, you know, I'm not saying teachers still, you know, I'm sort of partial on that because I've got some investment in it. But $7,950, if I looked at a teacher and told them that, they'd almost fall over today. So I guess my thing is I still say that we are in a situation where we're pretty much, Amber kept saying we cannot, I'm declining to improve that position because we don't have enough money. And she did her job. And I'm just saying, I know Keith said that this is our chance to find a solution. And that's good. Good to say. It's not as easy done as
I didn't say it was going to be easy.
Okay, you did. Okay, look at me, Keith. You didn't say that. But you did say that it's a good chance for us to find a solution. And my thing is we've been here an hour and 20 minutes. We really haven't dug into something really concrete. Everybody sort of expressed their opinions.
Won't be long.
I think I'm at 8 minutes, so
All right.
I'm gonna turn it back to you.
All right, thanks a lot. The one thing I want to clarify, I meant to do this when I first looked at the new format, this 1 year format we're using, and it's got 3 columns, the department request recommended. And that first column says budget original. Just for folks out in the public who may be reading the budget, that budget original is the same thing as the final budget for 2022-23. That's right. Not right on those years. Yeah. So we, like I said, we didn't want to change the software and pay extra money to format this thing, but I would call that column final budget 2022-23 just for clarification. I went through the revenue. I kind of scanned through the revenues last night, and like I said earlier, I think they're a conservative estimate. It's fairly obvious. There are a few, 3 or 4 in there that I didn't write them down today. I probably will Monday to ask about them. Just a couple that increased significantly or decrease significantly, just so I can, and I think I think an example was elections where I think you recommended more than they asked for, I think, but I think it was because somehow the bank upgrade got stuck in there, probably, right? But there's 3 or 4 like that, and I'm gonna go through those and just clarify them probably on Monday when we meet again. The ones that went either up a lot or down a lot, and there's not that many of them. Most of them are all kind of pretty consistent from the previous year, as I remember. I have concern about too much overtime and maybe comp time, but definitely overtime being paid. I'd like for us to examine that closely as we go through how much total overtime the county is paying out each year and what we can do to reduce it. So if there might be something we can find there to help us with this budget, hopefully. I already told you, give me an estimate of fund balance. Okay, also, as we go forward, maybe don't go calculate it now, but as we go forward and make cuts and changes or whatever, if we could kind of keep a running total of how much each one of those actions contributes to building the fund balance back in the right direction, to get to whatever, and we got to decide at some point what percent we can live with for this rather difficult budget. So, and I think it may have to be a lower number than we're happy with, but that's for everybody to decide collectively. As far as salary increases, this is kind of a general statement. There may be specific cases that it varies a little bit, but I'm not in favor of doing any recurring pay salary increases. If we were to have the funds to do it somehow when this is all done, maybe a bonus or something would be, I think, as far as I'd want to go, just because of the situation that we're in. I already said it, I think, but if y'all would calculate what a rough order of magnitude the annual payment will be for a courthouse expansion on a 40-year, I guess, loan with USDA. And I don't know what's the exact number we need to use for that loan. Do y'all, is it $6 million or is it more than $6 million?
Probably gonna be more than that.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, because we got 2 million for the.
We got 2
million through the state
Mhm.
grant, and then Perry came up with
He
an
did.
with
And he
more
said-
than he thought.
He said it was
Yeah.
originally 8 million, but he raised it to 8,500,000.
Yeah, if I had to guess, we need to do at least 7 because
7.
with that extra new boiler and doing all those control systems that he
Mhm.
recommended. Unless we want somehow can fund it in this budget, we might as well just add it on to the loan.
Okay, yeah, so just use 7 then or something like that to give us a rough order of magnitude. You just triggered another thought that I have somewhere, I think, in the rest of my notes here, but also you recommended certain things, I don't remember exactly what they were, to be financed. One thing, if we could do is look and see if there's more we could add to the finance part to relieve a little bit of pressure. If we can kind of collectively look at that, what we might add. I think there are only like 3 items you
Yeah,
had.
there were 3. There's one ambulance, the regrading and repaving of Autumn Square due to the infrastructure issues it may cause.
The ambulance. Has he not mentioned to you that now where he was? I ran into him at lunch one day, and he had talked to where's it up in Jefferson where they're built. The company now leases them. So we need to check into that.
Yeah.
What was the third one besides those 2? Do you remember?
It was I think it was the
Autumn Square.
replacement of the HVAC system in the old portion of the jail. It's
Yeah,
the
that's
only
it.
portion we have left in the county that's on the old controller system.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so if we could finance more stuff for our cash flow purposes, that would be worth looking into, I think. Just had a note, I think as we go through this, the summaries that you put in in your budget message of personnel and equipment, will make it fairly easy to discuss these things. I thought that was really good. This is a question that I don't remember, and if anybody remembers today, tell me. If not, if y'all go research it. But we gave $843,905 of ARPA money to the schools last year for current expense. That's what it says in the budget message, I think,
Yeah,
right? That's what we did.
accurate then, yes.
And my question was that for recurring or non-recurring expenses?
I believe that was for current expense.
It was for current expense, but was it a recurring, or did we have it somehow defined as a non-recurring?
Well, I mean, it was a one-time payment. We just decided since we had a portion of that ARPA fund left, we used that to
Yeah, I
fund
know
a
we were
portion of their
trying-
current expense.
Yeah, and we were trying to figure out how to,
I mean, so on
How to
our end,
spend
it
the
was,
ARPA money.
yeah, on our end, it was a one-time payment using our ARPA funds because we don't have any more left. We've already allocated the rest of those ARPA
They
funds.
probably used it for reoccurring.
Yeah,
though.
I would agree with that. Yeah,
okay.
Most of their stuff in current expenses.
but I
reoccurring.
think our thought was we would do what we could to
That
help
year.
fund what we could. Yeah.
Yeah,
for
so
that
we
year.
kind of took a non-recurring, what we considered a non-recurring payment because it's the only time we were ever going to be able to do it.
Just
Tossed it into the recurring machine down there, sort of. We need to look at that then.
Absolutely.
So, just for, just to analyze what we did and how it impacts all the budget and everything. On the documents you handed out today that had the sales tax revenues and stuff in there, if you would, they were showing some interesting trends there, but if you would, can we get at least one more month of that before we do finish this, or you think, or when does it come in again?
April will come
Oh, this-
around June 15th.
Okay, so we'll get one more month then, just to see what it's doing. I like for you guys to give us that as soon as you get it, so we can see if that trend is continuing or if there's any improvement there. Here's one which we haven't dealt with in a while. And we're making interest money now on our investments because of the interest rate going up. And my question, I don't think I've ever had to deal with this before, because we didn't have enough interest income, but is that money unrestricted? Is it just straight general fund, unrestricted
The
money,
interest?
or is it restricted? Would y'all just find
I
out?
can look in. Yeah.
Was it 500 and something thousand or something like that?
Yeah, I think
It's
altogether,
in
it
your
was in
budget?
the budget message, yeah,
Yeah.
it was altogether, it was around that, I believe, but we have it, we can break it down even further than that, if,
Okay.
showing what we've made on each of the items.
Plus, we're also on that 10 million hospital money. We're also drawing interest on that too.
Yeah, and that was part of that.
That would be restricted
was-
though, probably because of what we can use it for, I think.
Okay.
It would be restricted by that legislation that came with that money.
Yeah.
But the others
We
may
can put
not
the
be.
general
So
fund.
if we could go rob a few bucks there somehow, that might be good. Looks like all the enterprise funds are in good shape. I don't think we need to discuss those unless somebody has some reason to. This is just a kind of a question. I think I know the answer. All the ARPA funds have been spent except 1.1 million for internet. Does that sound right? They're either spent or obligated.
Yeah, they're already
committed.
obligated, yes, that'd be correct.
Yeah. Okay, and we got the 1.1 million left that we can only spend on internet. So we need to be thinking, I guess, discussing
Well,
that.
1.1 that's unobligated, yeah, because we have the, like you said, the great grant match.
Yeah.
That takes up the other portion of that. That's
Yeah.
the 1.3. But currently we still have that 2.4 total sitting there for that.
Yeah, and I think I heard at least on TV one time today, somebody talking about this debt ceiling thing. He made a comment about getting back some of the ARPA money, or some of the COVID money, he called it. I don't know, I think we really gotta watch that to make sure that they don't have some way of taking that back.
That is in the bill.
I thought it was,
That's
yeah.
in the bill. I heard it last night, and COVID money, out taking some of it back,
Yeah.
and,
I hadn't heard any
I could put
specifics.
it- I could, because it's past the House,
Mhm.
it's going to the Senate.
Yeah, yeah, they're gonna pass it
And
too.
I'm gonna pass it.
I hadn't seen any specific definition of what they're talking about. But maybe we could just ask school of government or somebody that. Because if we see they're coming for that money, we need to run to River Street and get in a meeting and figure out how we can
We
spend
better
it.
use $200,000 that you got in the budget to demo the old camp.
Mhm.
We
I
keep-
think the animal people are looking at using part of that brick building maybe as part of the shelter or something.
Somebody needs to.
But yeah, we got the same reason,
Yeah.
we gotta spend
A
it.
large portion of it we could, yeah.
Because that's some more they can maybe get back. We don't have-
That's about a line item in here in a minute.
Yeah, if I could just make one comment to that real
Yeah,
quick.
sure.
The demo of the old prison building you're talking about, my understanding they wouldn't be able to claw that back because it's general fund technically now because we did the revenue replacement for those funds for the large portion like the 6 point whatever it was ARPA funds outside of the broadband infrastructure 2.4 million. We use those as revenue replacement, so now they're considered general fund monies. If
Okay.
that makes sense. So
Yeah.
now, according to the federal government, the only ARPA funds we have not spent it would be the 2.4.
Uh-huh.
That'd be it.
Which we're getting ready to spend half of that.
Yes, but I guess I'm just saying from their point of view.
Oh,
what-
okay.
We've already spent
It's
the rest of it besides 2.4 because we did the revenue replacement and all that funding went to the general
Okay.
fund now
So,
to afford those projects.
yeah, and we've also obligated the 1.3 for the match. So we're just at risk on the 1.1 probably, if they were to go looking for money.
Yeah, I would say the whole 2.4 is what they see is that we have not spent any of it yet. But yes, we have obligated that
Yeah.
the 1.3 portion.
Okay.
But from their eyes, we've already spent the rest of that.
Mhm.
If that makes sense, because we reported it as spent when we did the report
Yeah.
recently. Because
They
again,
haven't reported any of the 2.4 is being spent
because
yet.
it has not. Yes, that's correct.
It's getting ready to be, right? The 1.3 is. I mean, that's really ready to go as soon as you do those contracts, right? So the 1.1 that's left is going to be what's really hanging out.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what we got to guard, I think, to make sure we
In
don't.
this, on page 2 of this recommended budget, where it says help COVID-19 CARES Act, and it says the department request is $3,589, kind of in the middle, but it says recommended is $143,073. What is that about?
I wondered this.
Which page y'all
Is that a
on?
carry?
Page
Is that a
2.
carry?
Of the recommended, but
Is
it's
that-
behind the revenue and
That's-
expenditures.
That's specifically for the health department.
Specifically, the health department gets that pot of money.
That's the health department.
Yeah, and the budget original would be what they got last year for the COVID money. They've just got received less of it this year. Is what it looks like.
So it doesn't matter what the request was.
No, it looks like they probably just guessed. They didn't know. You know, what I mean, they didn't know what the revenues were. But before we recommended it, we were able to change it because they got an update from the state on what funds they were actually getting. Is my understanding.
That goes directly to them.
Because they don't find out a lot of this stuff until last minute, and that's why we have to do a lot of those budget amendments to put it in there
Okay.
and stuff.
All right, thanks.
All right, y'all all want another round? I could stop now.
No, keep going.
Okay, I'll finish my list then. Appropriate, not spent, or the income maintenance position Stacy is asking for, those two, there's two you recommended, I think.
Yes.
Those are for Medicaid expansion?
Yes.
And they're 75% funded by the state anyway.
Yeah,
Yes, that's accurate,
okay. So like an unfunded mandate too, really,
basically.
I would say.
Last time I checked, she had 10 openings besides those two.
Sure. I support going back to the 240 hours on comp time that you put in the message. Just FYI, you guys can share your opinions on that too. And then you're gonna get us the more detailed school information on Monday. On the detention officers that the sheriff asked for, could y'all, if you hadn't got it already in the backup or whatever, could we get a reading on whether those 4 detention officers would pay for themselves by the increased workload or increased prisoners?
You talk about the jailers?
The other 4, I don't think would, but these 4 might. They might actually generate more revenue than what it costs to have them there. So if he could give us some kind of estimate
Yeah,
on that.
I need to know that.
And they're told how much they can charge for each prisoner, right?
Depends on where they're feds or state.
I mean,
They don't take federal, they just take state prisoners.
Yeah, I wish we could get into federal at some point. I don't want to do paperwork, So anyway, so that would influence my outlook on those positions if I thought they could pay for themselves. Then the last one I have is, would y'all, since we've had this discussion about benefits, would y'all, if you don't know off the top of your head, what would, if the employers were paying 20% of their health insurance, would that be enough money to move anything? You don't have to answer that now,
Yeah.
but
I had asked HR to just look into that, and so I know they were working with Cypress benefit,
Okay.
and Zach Brock to see what those numbers would look like. But we can have you a number for next time.
okay, I think a lot of organizations do 80-20.
80-20.
You got to factor that all into the total benefit package total, and sometimes I do think that we've done that so long that everybody just kind of gets used to it, don't realize that it's a pretty good benefit. I mean, I had the same discussion one time on, just sort of related to this, on 37.5-hour work week, and I thought everybody did 40 when I got here, but it was 37.5, so you get used to 37.5, and then it feels like it's 40, but it's really 37.5.
You got 3 different rates of employees working different hours.
Yeah, and the thing about that 37.5 is that once you get used to it, then it doesn't seem like it's a real benefit. I mean, so we don't market it well enough. I mean, say some new people coming in or something that we have that work week person. I guess other counties have, maybe they have it too, or maybe some of them do it 40.
I don't think so. It's 40 hours a week.
I don't know why we set it up that way to start with, but that was before my time, so.
Well, if something started 40 years ago, and it's just keeps on going.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it either. We seem to get the job done pretty well.
Well, think about it though, just off the top of my head, of course, that, so if you're working 37.5 hours, so what's another work another 3 hours, which, and so you're not really working, a normal work week is 40 hours. So you hang around for a little bit longer and get overtime. And if you're a civilian, it's automatically time and a half.
Yeah.
I think that's,
It's all tied together.
Yeah.
Definitely, but I'm not saying I want to change it though. That was just kind of related. It's just, my point is that we have some benefits here that we don't market well enough. Probably, I think you kind of said something to that effect earlier, that we need to make sure that, especially new people coming in, know about these things, as part of our recruitment plan or package for them. So that's my list for today.
yep, Keith.
Wow.
Yeah, Keith, your turn.
I had a citizen corner me and told me to check and see how much the county was spending on advertising for newspapers, and that why can't you advertise through social media instead?
I don't think we're spending a lot advertising in newspapers.
I don't think so.
I don't know where that line item is, but we can
The
find
prices
it.
have increased for the amount of advertising we are spending in newspapers. I
Is
mean,
that
it's
why-
quite a bit.
Is this?
What do we advertise in newspapers?
We have
I have to
we
advertise
have to
certain
advertise.
things.
I got advertised all this budget budget work session, we're in all the budget work session
Yeah,
days.
you can't
the public
just do that
hearing,
on social media.
yeah, the public hearings, like planning, we have the planning meetings, they have to advertise. Those are technically public hearings for the rezoning requests. All those have to be advertised. Glenda has to advertise all the upset
Legally,
bids.
can you just do it online?
Well, and I've told because I've talked to Eric Nance about that in planning, and I asked him to look that up specifically for planning and for other ones because I have heard talks of that as well. That the general statute has changed to where it doesn't require you to put certain things in the newspaper anymore, as long as you post it on your bulletin board and
Yeah,
post it on the
something we can
social media and website.
Said it was outrageous.
It is.
It is, really.
It's pretty pricey. It's
Like in
about
damn political
about
ads, you
I mean,
$1,000.
what is keeping that paper going? But
Us.
Yeah, it's all.
But I mean, that used to be, the only means of advertisement is through the newspaper. But I've heard
We
talks
got
of it
split
changing
hairs on this budget.
since everybody uses online
Yeah, I
forms
mean,
of
it'd be worth
communication
checking
now.
into statute-wise.
Because if we don't have to advertise it, we might could just make that call
Maybe
and
it's-
just
yeah,
post
make
it on
a-
the website and social media. But we're looking into that now. That's one thing we are checking into.
Yeah, that's part of our budget discussion, yeah, so we could look at a policy change that says we only advertise in the newspaper when it's required by statute, and otherwise it's the website and the social media and whatever. So why don't you see,
We'll look into the statutes too. And I had asked Eric if he could email somebody from the school of government to ask them specifically about the statutes if they had changed.
yeah,
or we
I
did
know
not
they've
have to
changed,
publish
because
it.
used to you had to do everything in the newspaper.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's on page 13 that jumped out at me. It was 1,500, and now this year it's 10,000. That's a big jump.
1,500. Where you at?
Where you at?
Page 13.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, advertising's in here more than once.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
for tax. That's Richard.
That's tax.
But he's doing the same thing.
What's it for?
That's for tax, where they advertise in the newspaper everybody who hasn't paid their taxes, and
So the rates must have went up what he was paying.
the rates for the newspapers have gone up quite a bit. Yeah, because we only advertise it in the Stokes
We need
News,
to look
but
at-
it's
if we're allowed to do other options, we need to look at it.
Yeah.
Well, what's happened is that, and I'm not trying to hammer Stokes News, but their circulation has gone down. So how are they gonna make it? They're gonna charge you more for advertising and any type of ads and things that way, because I know the circulation has gone down. I get calls from them once a month, want me to start back taking it. I don't take it now. My mother takes it, so I go up to my mom.
Efficiency.
If they got a copyright law that
I do that.
I do
read
the
it
same
at my
thing.
friend's house. They get it.
Bother me.
You got anything else, Keith? What other comments or questions?
Not this time, no.
Brad, do you have additional?
Just a couple went off. It'll be short, but I think that, when you were talking about, overtime and then, and comp time, historically, it's very, very important for department heads to enforce, make sure that, if the overtime is needed or if the comp time is needed, and they got to hold their supervisors accountable to. I mean, if you need it, you need it, but it's got to be justified. Sometimes it gets very easy to, if you're a supervisor and someone wants to work over or gives an excuse why they had to work over instead of looking into it or addressing the issue, it's just easy just to look the other way. And then the next thing you know, that it just snowballs, because when employees look and see what other employees do, so if they see where one employee gets to pretty much make their own hours, then they're going to start making their own hours. And if nobody is held accountable, then it turns into a situation. One of the things that kind of falls in line with this is in our personnel policy, I mean, we don't outline specifically about use of holiday time. I mean, it outlines that if you take, you have to take comp time before you take vacation time. But with holiday time, most organizations, they say, hey, you can carry so many hours of holiday time, but after the first year, you lose it. And one of the biggest, and Lisa, you can, comment on this, but one of the things that I always look for in Fayetteville is when somebody retires, it's normally you're paying out a pretty good chunk of vacation time and holiday time, and maybe even some comp time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you lose. You write a nice little check going out the door, and typically, you haven't budgeted for it. You're just taking out of what I'm used to call salary lag, and you call it lapsed salaries. But we need to make. I mean, we want our employees to enjoy time off. They need family time. What we don't want is we don't want to create a huge liability for the county, and not have any justification for spending that kind of money.
It's pretty standard. I mean, our system is kind of weird. Our anniversary date is when we got to take all our vacation. Like mine is September 1, and I got 19 days I got to take between now, or I lose it. It's gone. And it's been that way for years.
But I think we just kind of ties into the budget. I think we just need to look at some of the high dollar amounts that go out the door with stuff like that.
We got $125,000 in contingency for that. And I think, don't we always usually have to increase it a little bit though during the year?
We've exhausted that for this year.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
We have no contingency left at all. It's all gone. Thank you for.
Yeah, and the proposed budget, you got 125 for next year also, right? Is that based on what you had this year, basically?
I was thinking of who's left. We had some really people that retired that had been here a long time at their salary.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have as many.
This year.
It's mostly newer or younger.
Okay.
Not as many years.
Not the 30-year folks.
I think when we do have the department heads here for the different meetings, one thing we could ask them is if they saw a different, the ones that wanted us to change that about, the comp time payout, if it made a difference with retention or not. If it is making a huge difference, then maybe, we should look at keeping it. But if it's not making a difference at all, then no. They asked us for that because they thought it would keep employees, especially the jail and
There's a couple of employees in the sheriff's office and jail who have gotten paid out for over that 75 hours of comp time, but it's hardly any though.
You got something in your message about that, don't you? About how much it was?
I believe so, but if not, I can get you those numbers.
I think you got it
because
in
we've
there
looked it up
already.
specifically to see which departments were actually and which employees were getting paid out over the 75 hours for comp time, and whether that was, I guess, the departments that it was targeted for.
and it was there were some.
There were probably 3 or 4 in the sheriff's office and 1 or 2 in the jail. But I think HR had spoken with with the sheriff and the sheriff's office and jail administration, and they didn't really, I guess, see the difference that they thought it was going to make. Is my understanding. So while it is
That's what I was
helping,
wondering.
it's not the expected difference.
Yeah, you got a section that says, while changing this figure has helped in a small way, it did not provide the expected results, which resulted in a cost to the county of approximately $59,000.
Yeah, that's how much we've paid out since we changed it.
there's one other thing that I did forget, is that if we could get an analysis of our vacancies, and also, do we have certain positions that we haven't filled for years? If we have positions that we can't fill,
You look at them.
why do we carry them on the books?
Yeah, to Brad's comment about the overtime stuff too, we may have already told you this, Amber. That'd be a good thing to put in their support forms as one of the expectations, is to manage that overtime, comp time.
And I know either Rick or someone brought it up, but I just want to make sure that we have this. Our next meeting is next Monday, right?
Mm-hmm.
At what time?
5 up. There's a public hearing at
Public
7.
hearing afterwards at
Yeah.
7, right?
Yes, sir.
So next Monday at 5. And Rick, did you ask, I think you did, if this budget, because I know me and you were both asking us, we estimated, because I've done some figuring, had my calculator out this morning, y'all think that do y'all think y'all can have where we'll be at fund balance wise if I think Rick said 10%, maybe I said 11.
By Monday. You mean,
Y'all have that?
Lisa, do you need to talk to the auditors about that?
An estimate about where it would be with this proposed budget.
If we use it, if we
Yeah.
take that, do you think we could have an approximate estimate? I will give a call to you. Okay.
Rough
Yes.
order of magnitude, and we will hold you to it.
Yeah, I mean, if you are 0.23%, we're not gonna say, geez, but it would help me a lot, I tell you. Because everybody, I know everybody knows this and they've read it, but let's face it, 8% is a magical number.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We go under 8%. We're in big,
LGC.
yep, we're in big trouble.
A little too close.
You guys have anything else?
No.
What I would suggest, I'm gonna do, if anybody else can do it if you want, I guess, I'm gonna stay here for a little bit longer. I don't have anything pressing, go through these documents and see if I have any questions for y'all before 5 o'clock today, if you don't mind. I just wanna read, I'm gonna sit here and read them. If I do, I'll come in there and find you or whatever. But,
We'll make one comment that's just a thought I had, and I know we have money for this already budgeted, but you were talking about seeing what else we could finance, what other items we make it add. I don't have specific small budgetary items, but one thing I had thought about if the board wanted to do that was, we have that 1.3 million budgeted for the animal shelter. That's ARPA funds, so that's technically general fund money now. If y'all would like to finance the animal shelter project and use those funds for other things. I know that's what that money was set out for, but that is an option. That's 1.3 million that you could unobligate
if we can
Right.
get the financing.
if we could get the finance, and that is true as well. But I just wanted to.
Is that why you're smiling?
You
Yeah,
got it.
that's a good
You
thought.
got it.
But
Keith.
it's just I just want to throw that out as an idea. It may not be anything to really.
Problem, I guess, that's really a good thought, except I guess we'd have to go through the whole LGC process to
We would.
finance it,
Yeah.
Can we get a consolidation loan?
Could you do the courthouse and the animal shelter?
Problem is our
Yeah.
buildings ain't worth nothing.
We could probably do it all together.
Oh, man.
Let's
The
keep our
ambulance
humor.
and stuff, if we could do that. As long as we could do
I
it
was
for
going to say
courthouse.
that, but I didn't.
Yeah,
I
look
think
at it from that standpoint too, doing them both together.
you're doing them all together, yeah.
One thing we gotta make sure that we're meeting the regulations on that ARPA if we do that though, if we spend it on something else.
Well, it's general fund money now, technically,
Okay,
so.
that makes me nervous, the fact that they let you.
His legal opinion is
It's
what
called
he's saying.
supplanting.
And they said we could do that.
We can do with it whatever we want to, because we used basically what we did was we took that ARPA funding and we you put it to where our salary, or the money we'd be paying for our salaries and wages, and that's what we said we were using the ARPA money for.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So now it's general fund money. We can do with it whatever we would like to.
What it is, what it's for.
What do you think about? That's a big chunk of money to help us a little bit.
Because see, when we report it, we've already reported it as we have spent that 6 million something. We have already reported that as being spent
Okay.
for those salaries and wages.
Okay.
I mean, there's one
So
on
it's
here. Look at this
they
one.
don't. Federal government isn't paying attention to that portion of it anymore. They're just paying attention to the 2.4 now.
Good, let's talk about that some more.
If,
Yeah.
On your recommended budget, your first sheets, Fund 100, your account numbers, do you have a sheet that we can refer to see a key plan where that money is?
What that each code is.
What department it's going to or what?
Talking about for the revenues side of it.
Yeah.
We
That was
can make
part-
something up.
Yeah, that's
and
the part
fix
of
it.
what Rick had mentioned as far as like we could break down the revenues by department anyways. If that.
Well, it's revenue and
Well, I don't want
expenditures.
a lot of trouble if you just got, I
The
can,
expenditures are broken down by department through the rest of the budget. We just put them all together at the beginning, so you could see an overview of what the total.
okay, so I can
Revenue
find
to
why
expenditure
there's 0 in the original budget and then it's $350,000 there now.
Revenue or expense?
They're all together.
I know, but the expenses are broken out by department later.
Revenues end on page 8. At the end of page 8, there's a total for total revenues, and then the expenditures start on the next page.
Okay,
Those expenditures are broke out by department, the revenues are not.
Anytime you see in the 4 digits in the middle,
I just don't want to be a worry
the
wart.
3,000s are always revenues.
The what?
The 3,000s.
3,000s are always revenues.
Right, in the middle where it says
Yes.
100.30, 100.110, the
Same
middle
with two.
digits are always going to be revenue codes.
That's helpful.
And then your expenses are going to be by department, like
Yeah.
4,100, 5,100, 58.
They're
They're
broke out
broken
by
down in the back.
department already.
It starts on
That's what I-
on 46.
Thanks,
the
Tracy.
expenditures start breaking down by departments. From page 9 to 45, it's all the expenditures together, and it doesn't say which departments are what. But starting on page 46, it's those same expenditures just broken down by department. If that makes sense.
Now, that's
That's
helpful.
helpful
We
because-
don't look at this every day.
Yeah.
But the
Well,
revenue,
and we're learning ourselves because this is a new way we did the budget this year. So we're
but the revenues by department are in there nowhere, so if you want that, you gotta ask for it.
Right. We can do that if you
Yes.
wanted it separated, so you know what revenue
Yeah, it would be
is
helpful,
for
probably.
that department.
I
No
think it
problem.
would be too. And then also, along with that, say whether it's state, federal, or county money, that revenue.
Yes, that's helpful.
Mr. Chairman, if we don't have any more business for today, I need to get home in a few minutes. Could I have a motion? Could we get a motion to adjourn?
Get a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?